What is up, guys? So here it is, my review for Arrow Season 6, Episode 8, titled Crisis on Earth X Part 2. I gotta say, it's so weird doing a review on an episode when I've already seen 2 episodes after it, but I can't make more than one of these videos a day, because the crossover videos are all like over 10 minutes, and that takes me an hour or 2 hours to make, and I just don't have the time after school, so I'm making one a day. So by the time my episode 4 review comes out, it'll be Friday. Friday. So it's just so weird making this review when I've already seen the next 2 episodes. But this episode it's probably the worst episode in the crossover so far. Or not so far, it's just in general, it's just the worst episode in this crossover. So the last episode ended with Prometheus being captured, and this episode starts with Prometheus taking off his mask to reveal that it was indeed Tommy Merlin of Earth X, which, I mean, I totally predicted. He wasn't my first choice, sure, but because I was really sure it was going to be Quentin Lance, but Tommy was my second choice. He was even on the thumbnail, so you know what? I might look pretty good right now with my speculations, which like, it's not saying that much because almost everyone predicted that it was going to be Tommy. But I just feel like it would have been better if they revealed that it was Tommy in episode 1. That would have just made more sense. It would have flowed better with the episode. And it would have been a better cliffhanger, which I guess doesn't really matter because the next episode came out right after the first episode, because episode 2 came out right after episode 1. But either way, I feel like it would have stood on its own as its own episode better if Prometheus was revealed in episode 1. But either way, this scene, something I loved about this scene is that the music playing in the background is the same music that was playing when Tommy died in season 1. It just brought back some really sad memories because Tommy's death was the saddest death in the Arrowverse ever, and one of the reasons being the music in the background. Tommy being back, even though it was briefly, gave us some really great heartfelt conversations between Oliver and him. Also, Tommy was really scary when he said everyone you care about, everyone you love, they're all gonna die. That was such a scary, well said quote. Like, the way Tommy said it, the way the actor said it, it was really well acted. He looked really scary. I feel like Tommy Merlin was actually the scariest villain out of all the 4 in all 4 parts, which is why it's so disappointing that they killed him off right away. They hyped him up completely. They hyped him up so much, or at least I was really hyped to see another Prometheus. They hyped him up in the posters, in the trailers, and he just dies right away without even putting up a fight against Sarah and Alex. He went out like a punk. Seriously, needless to say, I was very disappointed with Prometheus in the crossover. He was great for the one scene he was in unmasked. I feel like it would have been so cool if he was in more episodes. It's just so disappointing. I really like how everyone just figured out on their own that these people are from a different Earth. Like, first they thought they were aberrations, which was a really, like, it made sense. That theory made sense, and probably would have been pretty cool to see if they were aberrations, but it's even cooler that they're from Earth X. And then they came to the conclusion that they are from a different Earth, and that was just great. But then there are like 3 scenes that was actually pretty hard to get through, mainly because of Felicity being a bitch. I actually don't get why they're doing this. Like, it really boggles my mind. The crossovers are a chance to have people who don't watch the shows regularly become attached to the characters and the storyline over these episodes and start watching the shows. But like idiots, they chalk the crossovers, or this episode especially, full of these stupid soap opera scenes that turn people off from their shows. And this episode had like 3 scenes right from the get-go that were just so hard to get through. Like, part 1 had a moment that was hard to watch with Felicity screaming, "I don't want to marry you," which is so fucking annoying. It's the stupidest scene, like, stupidest moment ever. But this episode had like 6 scenes that were just, and 3 right from the get-go, that were just stupid. Like, why? Why would you put this in the crossover? The crossover is the only part of the episode, or only part of the Arrowverse that I actually want and expect 0% soap opera drama, because I just want to see the good guys teaming up with other good guys and fighting some Nazis or whatever they're going to do next crossover, or aliens. It's so stupid to fill it with pointless filler drama. It just turns people off. Like I said, this is a chance to have people who don't watch the shows start watching the shows, and you messed it up. The rest of the crossover was great, but I'm betting people who watched this episode in particular was like they were thinking, you know what, I might start the show, but then one of these scenes come on and they're like, yep, this is why I quit watching Arrow. This is why I quit watching The Flash. And it's just so disappointing. There was this one scene in between these stupid scenes that was actually really good, with Jax telling Martin he sees him as a father. That was a great scene. It was heartfelt. It was pretty well acted. It kind of makes what happens in episode 3 have a bigger impact. And by the way, what happened in episode 3 was spoiled to me by a commenter, just like Reverse Flash being from Earth 1. That is just insane, which I talk about later in the episode, in the review. It's insane. I don't get to watch these episodes until like a couple hours after they come out, because I'm sleeping when they're airing, and it's really annoying when you guys, well, it's not you guys, it's like 2 people who commented and just spoiled the episode completely. I was actually really annoyed by that. So just try to not do that. From now on, when an episode comes out, just don't talk about it in my comment sections for at least 10 hours. And then we get to the good stuff before the doppelgangers appear. There's a really funny moment when Kara and Barry get to that site a full minute before Oliver gets there and just wait there. It was a really funny moment, and then Oliver says, "Super speed, I don't have it." It was a great moment. And then Green Arrow and Supergirl meet their Earth X counterparts, and the Flash meets Reverse Flash, which was spoiled to me by a commenter. Thanks for that. But the Reverse Flash being Eobard Thawne from Earth 1, or the Earth X Reverse Flash, or whatever, I totally didn't expect that reveal. It's both awesome and also disappointing. I really wanted it to be an Earth X Harrison Wells. Like, I wanted it to be a new character. I don't know if I would have preferred a new character, because seeing Reverse Flash back is awesome, but I kind of really wanted to see Blitzen, the character that people have been talking about for a while, that people thought this guy was, which turns out he isn't at all. But you know what? I'm not disappointed. Again, it's awesome seeing Reverse Flash back, although it doesn't really make any sense at all for him to look like Harrison Wells. Like, what is the point of that? I don't understand. He said like he wanted to make it look like he was how it did in season 1, and Harrison Wells is handsome. I guess that doesn't really explain anything. I feel like they just glossed over it without giving us a concrete explanation. But this has got to be another one of those things where they just couldn't afford any more actors, right? That's also probably why they made the Earth X doppelgangers Stephen Amell and Melissa Benoist. They just couldn't afford actors. Like, they have all these actors together. I get it. The CW shows have small budgets, but I think the CW has got to give them bigger budgets for the crossovers, right? Because they get way higher ratings. So I don't really get why they can't afford more actors. They have all these superheroes, but you can get, what's his name, Matt Letcher to be Reverse Flash. That would have been awesome, and it would have actually made sense as opposed to Tom Cavanaugh being the Reverse Flash in this scenario. But whatever, they couldn't afford it, so I can't really hold them over that. But the Kryptonite Arrow was awesome. I don't know how Oliver got the Kryptonite, but just seeing him shooting a Kryptonite Arrow and then it opening up, the music in the background was awesome. But I feel like we were cheated out of a big fight right here because of the Kryptonite Arrow. If Oliver didn't shoot that Kryptonite Arrow at Kara and instead shot it at Dark Arrow, they would have had this awesome fight with Dark Arrow versus Green Arrow and Supergirl versus Overgirl. I just feel like we were cheated out of a big fight between the 6 of these people. We got it in episode 4, sure, but I just wanted to see these 6 people, these 6 superheroes and supervillains, or 3 superheroes, 3 supervillains fighting each other with nothing in the background. I feel like we were 100% cheated out of that. But we did get this awesome scene where the Flash, Supergirl, and Green Arrow work together to stop a building from collapsing. That was actually a really great scene. The CGI was a little off when Green Arrow was swinging around. Did make Green Arrow look pretty awesome. Like, not physically awesome, because again, the CGI was a little off. It just made Green Arrow look awesome with, like, he has the ability to swing around a building and stop it from collapsing, which is insane. Like, who knew Green Arrow can do that? Honestly, who knew? It was like it looked like something Spider-Man would do. It made Green Arrow look so much better and more useful. Also, if Green Arrow, I said that I wanted Green Arrow to kill Overgirl in the end, and he 100% did not in this crossover, which isn't disappointing. It's just, it would have been so cool to see. But at least he shot Overgirl in the shoulder, right? That was awesome. Okay, Alex Danvers aside, that team up shot was pure awesomeness. Alex Danvers still doesn't fit, but it's still an awesome scene with each hero suiting up with that inspiring music in the background, walking in slow motion together, and then running, flying slash flying slash swinging away from Star Labs. It was just a really cool set of shots. I couldn't help but feel like this is the Justice League. And I mean, I would change it up a little bit, just adding Black Canary, Superman, and Martian Manhunter, and getting rid of Alex Danvers, and maybe even White Canary, Supergirl, and Firestorm, and then adding Batman, Wonder Woman. You know what? It was a great shot. It's still a better Justice League than the DCEU Justice League. That's, like, for sure. Then there's this huge fight scene that was pretty good, if not a little underwhelming. There were some shots that looked pretty bad, especially when Overgirl or Supergirl were involved. I feel like Arrow just does not know how to make those shots look good. Supergirl isn't that great at it, but it's much better than Arrow. I think the Flash is actually the best at it. The Flash is better than Supergirl at making Supergirl look cool. But either way, what Arrow is good at is hand-to-hand combat, and there was a great hand-to-hand combat scene in between the big fight scene with Team Arrow versus Dark Arrow. That was a pretty great fight, if you ask me. Although I don't 100% believe that Dark Arrow can take out all three of those guys. I believe he can take out Wild Dog and Mr. Terrific and Black Canary all one-on-one, but all three of them together, especially with Black Canary's Canary Cry, I don't see how he would beat them. But either way, it was a pretty good fight. Okay, so they totally made the Nazi doppelgangers way too sympathetic. Is that just me? Like, they made them married to each other, and Overgirl is dying. It's just like the Thinker, what's going on over there. But Overgirl's dying because of way too much yellow sun radiation, which is just like what happened in All-Star Superman. But honestly, they're Nazis. Why make them so sympathetic? Why make them sympathetic at all? They should have been 100% pure evil. They're Nazis, but they aren't pure evil at all in any of the 4 episodes. It just feels wrong. Feeling actual sympathy for a Nazi, I don't want to, and it just feels wrong. I'm not saying I did feel sympathetic towards them, just because every time they made me feel slightly bad for them, I remembered, yeah, they're Nazis, so I don't really care, which is why don't make Nazis sympathetic at all, because they're Nazis. It won't work. But in conclusion, I'd say this episode was a little disappointing. It had way too much drama, especially for a crossover episode. Felicity kind of ruined this episode almost. Some of the fight scenes were pretty lame, although other fight scenes were actually really good. Prometheus was mostly disappointing, like just because they killed him off so early. But Prometheus himself was awesome. I think Colin Donnell, the guy who plays Tommy, did a great job, looking really scary. Again, he was the scariest Earth X counterpart, which is why it's so disappointing they killed him off. And then I'd say the good kind of a little bit outweighs the bad in this episode. The team-up shots, or for a crossover. This is definitely a great episode just because it's a crossover. But it's not the greatest crossover episode. In crossover standards, I'll give this episode, I think, a 7.5 out of 10. I'd say it's by far, maybe not by far, but it's the worst crossover episode since the Vandal Savage crossover, which was just worse. Out of the 7 crossover episodes that have been in the past 2 years, this one is the worst. So in crossover standards, I give it a 7 out of 10, but in normal episode standards, I give it a 9 out of 10. Spoiler alert, this was the worst episode of this year's crossover. So what do you think about the episode? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.